community spread says that at least 1%, at the very least 1% of our population is carrying this virus in Ohio today. We have 11.7 million people, so the math is over 100,000.
That was Ohio Dr. Acton at a press conference with Mike DeWine, stating that at least 1% of the population currently at that time was walking around with the virus. And she said 11.7 million. That means 117,000 people were walking around with it. At that time, it was going to double every 6 days. This next clip is Mike DeWine later that day on Fox News, where he is asked about those numbers. Now, if you notice in this clip coming up, Mike does not deny that claim. He also doesn't endorse it. He puts it on, quote unquote, the experts. But he felt strongly enough about it that he closed schools and shut the state down based upon the numbers provided.
Rather dramatically in the next few days.
To be clear, Governor, you're talking about 100,000 undiagnosed cases walking around in your state today. You're saying that the state expects those cases to double every 6 days, but there's only 1,000 testing kits that you know of?
What Dr. Acton tells me, and I rely on the experts, I'm certainly not the expert, but, we're going to reach a point in this country, not just in Ohio, where it's not going to be too long when they're not going to have the capacity to test everybody, and we're just going to have to move on from there. Because if you get, 1 million people, 2 million people, obviously you're not going to be testing them at that point. So look, would we like more testing kits? Yeah, we would, but we're in the same boat everybody else is. We are not unique, but we do have capacity coming online in regard to our hospitals, and so you're going to see the tests that are being done are going to go up dramatically, and when they go up, you're going to see the number of people who test positive go up. But the steps that we took, were informed by the experts who tell us what they anticipate based on the number of tests that we have done, based on the fact that we now have 2 community spread individuals who we have no idea where they got it. It's all across Ohio, but it's all across other states as well. And so we took this action yesterday. We can't say to get ahead of this, because you can't get ahead of it really, but to really slow this down as much as we could so that our health, our hospitals and our doctors and our whole health system will be able to deal with what's coming up.
It's a huge challenge, not just in your state, across the country.
The model put forth by Dr. Acton and Governor DeWine was adopted nationwide. 1% of the population minimum, at least, had the virus walking around right now, and it would double every 6 days. Now, if we quarantine, those numbers would obviously drop, but 3.4 million people have the virus right now, and 3 to 5% of them are going to die. Well, let's just say it doubles one time and then it stops. That's 6.8 million people have it. 3 to 5%. 3% is 204,000. So when we shut this whole country down, we did it based on at least 6.8 million we're going to get it. At least 3% we're going to die, which would be 204,000 people. 5%, obviously a lot higher. And that's the type of contagious disease and deadly disease that we were dealing with. And all the states followed Mike DeWine's lead. Now, when it came about a few weeks later, that after 60+ thousand tests were given, and we were only having in the state of Ohio 1,200 people that were contracted the virus at that time, and we had 8 people that were dead, and we had 42 people hospitalized. This is what Mike DeWine had to say then.
Those mistakes I made have come about because I didn't get enough facts. I didn't drill down deeply enough. I didn't ask enough questions. I didn't ask the right people.
That is 16%, you said?
We have not, and again, all of this data I'm giving you now has a big asterisk of, our N, our number, that our data is so slim. As a matter of fact, some of the projections I would like to have the answers to now, I just feel like would not be even responsible to do.
Look, we hope everybody's back in business shortly. But we also know this thing is not going to even peak, we don't think, until May 1. So I don't want to mislead anybody. This is not going to occur overnight.
That I was very convinced we had community spread, and even though we didn't have the testing, I was already seeing that. Now, the 1% number actually came for me, and I did go through the math before, but it came from working backwards from what we knew at that time, which is 40 to 70% of all of us will get this virus in the course of a year. Those numbers, I've seen 56% in one study, and that's varying, but that is the best of science at the time. And I also knew when we would start to peak.
When you got to those projections that said, like in Germany and others, that implied that 60% or 50% of the population would get infected, I want to be very clear. The only way that happens is this virus remains continuously moving through populations in this cycle, in the fall cycle, and another cycle. So that's through 3 cycles with nothing being done. The numbers that have been put out there are actually very frightening to people. But I can tell you, if you go back and look at Wuhan and Hubei and all of these provinces, when they talk about 60,000 people being infected, even if you said, oh, right, well, there's asymptomatics and all of that, so you get to 600,000 people out of 80 million. That is nowhere close to the numbers that you see people putting out there. I think it has frightened the American people. I think on a model that you just run full out, you can get to those numbers if you have 0 controls and you do nothing. And we know that every American is doing something.
So I do apologize. I did confuse a couple things I said in that, and I was taking a guess at 1% is roughly 100,000, really 117,000. But I didn't want to wait. I knew in time to come. We'll never know the exact numbers until we look back. Thank you.
As you can see, I've got an amazing director of health.
Let's take a look as of March 30th, what actual numbers are in the state of Ohio. Now let's take a look at this. Let's look at the entire country. We shut down, and we're finding out the numbers aren't anywhere close to what we thought originally.